Digital 410 Productions proudly presents What's the Scuttlebutt Podcast with your host, Don Atwood.
When wildfire breaks out and the flames are too remote to access on land, smoke jumpers get the call. This highly trained, elite group of firefighters parachute into some of the most challenging wildfires in the country. They can be airborne in minutes and can reach any fire line in the West within a few hours.
Activated based on the recommendation of the Advisory Committee on Negro Troop Policies, chaired by the Assistant Secretary of War, John J. McCloy, Chief of Staff George C. Marshall approved the committee's recommendation for a black parachute battalion and decided to start with a company. And on February 25, 1943, the 555th Parachute Infantry Company was constituted. On December 19, 1943, headquarters of the Army Ground Forces authorized the activation of the company as an all-black unit with black officers as well as black enlisted men. All unit members would be volunteers with an enlisted cadre to be selected from personnel of the 92nd Infantry Division, stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. The company was officially activated on December 30th, 1943 at Fort Bennings, Georgia. After several months of training, the unit moved to Camp McCall, North Carolina, where it was reorganized and redesignated on November 25th, 1944 as Company A of the newly activated 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion. Due to its numerical designation, as well as the fact that 17 of its original 20 members were selected from the 92nd Infantry Buffalo Division, the 555th PIB would adopt the nickname the Triple Nickels, hence the origin of the term Buffalo Nickels. And though combat ready and alerted for European duty in late 1944, the changing tides of war resulted in a different assignment, jumping over the blazing forest of the American Northwest searching for Japanese balloon bombs, a job requiring exact skills and special courage. In this unusual role, the 555th also confronted a new dimension in warfare, involving the use of biological agents that could destroy woodlands and crops, but not humans. These men soon became known as smoke jumpers. At this stage in the war, the Japanese were floating incendiary devices attached to balloons across the Pacific Ocean, taking advantage of the jet stream's easterly flow in an attempt to start forest fires in the northwestern United States. The Forestry Service asked the military for help, and the Triple Nickels were ready, willing, and able. The battalion answered some 36 fire calls with more than 1,200 individual jumps during the summer of 1945. Operating from Pendleton and Chico, California, the operations covered all the northwestern states, including Montana. During fire operations, the battalion suffered numerous injuries, but only one fatality. Malvin L. Brown, a medic assigned to the battalion's headquarters company, died on August 6, 1945, after falling during a letdown from a tree near Roseburg, Oregon. His death is the first recorded smoke jumper fatality during a fire jump. When the battalion was inactivated on December 15, 1947, its men were all transferred into the 3rd Battalion, 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne Division, which had been reduced to cadre strength in preparation for their arrival. Soon afterwards, individual black paratroopers were transferred to units throughout the 82nd Airborne Division, making it the first integrated division in the United States Army.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt Podcast, your favorite World War II based podcast. And I know it's been a while since we put out the last episode with Mr. Eric Hauser. I hope you guys enjoyed that little interview and the video that went along with it. If you haven't seen that, head over to YouTube, check out the Digital 410 Network, and check out the 2 new videos we posted. One is when Eric Hauser came down here and we went around town and I showed him all the World War II and military monuments around Southwest Florida. And most recently, the video I shot up at the Mount Dora Renneker's Military Vehicle Preservation Association event. Little disclaimer in the video, I referred to him as the Military Vehicle Preservation Society instead of the association. So for you guys in the association, I do apologize for that. And this episode is kind of a 2-part episode. The last half is part 1 of the interviews I did during that event from the cab of the old Tacoma, the At Computers mobile studio, as we like to call it. And as you know, this episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast is brought to you by our friends at Computers. At Computers has been providing IT solutions for all Southwest Florida since 2004. Whether you need computer repair, network, footprint expansion, server work, what have you, give them a call at 239-283-1120. But I cannot express the importance of backing up your data. Just this week, we had a customer who one of their employees inadvertently got their server and some of their data encrypted through ransomware. But luckily, they're backing up all their data with the online backup solution that Act Computers provides. And, it went from being a catastrophe to a huge inconvenience. But luckily, all their data is backed up. And we are currently getting their server back up and running and reloading all that data. And so to offer you that same peace of mind, give Act Computers a call at 239-283-1120. Doesn't matter where you live in the country or perhaps around the world. They will set you up with online backup at 7 cents a gig per month. Give them a call, 239-283-1120, or hit them up on Facebook, Twitter, or email them at info@act-capecoral.com. Or you can email us at info@WTSP-WorldWar2.com, and we'll pass the information along to them. Back up your data now is more important than any other time. It is not worth losing all your important documents. 7 cents a gig per month, Act Computers. And so, as I was saying, this is kind of a two-part episode. In the beginning, I felt it was important to include into this episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast because of something I have going on this Saturday with my daughter. And to explain this in the format in which we do on this show, where it's just me sitting alone in a room, it really wouldn't get the humor across. And since I already explained this story about 3 weeks ago on my other podcast, the Waterman and D-Train Show, I felt I would just play that segment on here so you guys can get the whole background of what's going on this weekend. And on next week's episode, I will tell you what happened this weekend and if the story continues. So humor me for a little bit, sit back, and here we go for the Waterman and D-Train Show to explain to you what I have going on this weekend. And after this segment, we will sit down with Mr. Brown, who's a documentarian who's working on a documentary that I ran into at the Mount Dora event. So as per always, when we do the interview in the cab of the truck, the sound's not the greatest, but it's better than it has ever been. It's a pretty good sounding remote episode. But here you go. Thank you guys for your continued support, and let's get started. First, I was informed that Nugget hates my podcast.
Which one?
All of them. Because in order for us to do
par for the course with the daughter, right?
Oh, thank you, Nugget, if you're listening to this.
Well, she hates him because while we're doing this, she can't be acting a fool and making a ruckus in the house.
That's one day. Well, yeah, okay.
And I was explaining to her, well, if I didn't have the podcast, you wouldn't have a studio to be singing in for 4 hours on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, there you go.
Because she was in here Saturday recording herself singing. She does karaoke in here.
Very cool.
How many 6th grade girls have their own recording studio in their house?
Man, true.
But anyhow, she started 6th grade this year.
Oh, man.
And she volunteered to do a history fair project.
Oh, cool.
And she came home at the beginning of the year and said, I'm doing a history fair project.
All proud.
Okay.
And?
I'm doing it on World War II.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's a mighty broad subject there, Nugget.
Yeah.
What's the theme of your history fair? Breaking boundaries.
Breaking boundaries.
World War II. You're in luck. About a year and a half prior to Nuggets joining our family, Carrie got a bunch of books from the Scholastic programs based on the amount of box tops that they turn in, which, by the way, they don't do box tops anymore. Heaven forbid we print box tops on boxes. Now we want you to go to our website.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, so Carrie got this book about 2 years ago. It's on the it's for 4th and 5th graders. It's Scholastic. It's approved reading. And it's on the 555th Parachute Infantry Regiment. The Triple Nickels. They are the first all-black Army regiment, including NCOs. Part of them, they had black Army regiments, but they had white officers. And prior to them, a majority of them were either cooks, truck drivers, or, they worked in quartermasters and the less glamorous gigs. Mm-hmm. And so this was the first all-black infantry regiment, not to mention paratroopers.
That's pretty intense, man.
And they call themselves the Triple Nickels because it was the 555th, 3 5s, Nickels, 5. And it's also an homage to the Buffalo Soldiers.
Oh, okay.
Buffalo Nickel.
Yeah, Buffalo Nickel.
And so these guys went through the whole parachute infantry school, and they did all the drum training, but heaven forbid we send the first all-black parachute infantry to fight the Nazis. Let's send them to the West Coast instead to fight forest fires from the Japanese barrage balloons.
Oh, man.
So these poor guys went through the training, but they never actually saw any combat. Mm-hmm. But what they did do, and where they did create history other than being the first all-black unit, is most of the policies that the smoke jumpers use nowadays when they jump into forest fires was created by these guys.
Right.
Before then, no one jumped out of airplanes, and they sure shit didn't do it to fight fires. And so you got two histories there. So I gave her this book. There you go. It meets your desire to do World War II, and it meets their requirement to do Breaking Boundaries. Come to find out that this is a countrywide history fair.
Oh, man.
And she's had 8 months to do it.
What?
Yeah.
So it's crunch time, bruh.
And so she brought home the paperwork one day.
Oh,
and
dude.
I didn't help her with the project. I just help her defining what primary research material is, a secondary research, and third cursory research material, and helped her. And then she did the rest of the project at school. Made these boxes, put pictures, descriptions.
Yeah.
Black and white 8x10s with X's and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one saying exactly what it was. That's for you Ellis's restaurant fans out there. And I forgot about it because it's a volunteer thing. And, I talked to her teacher, and her teacher knew that she, in 5th grade, she was in some classes for kids with, not exactly achieving scholastically. And the teacher said, to be honest with you, this is kind of for the advanced kids, man. But if she turns in stuff, I'll grade it and
Grade
good to go.
Uh-oh.
And so last Thursday rolls around. She says, hey, my art fair's tomorrow.
What?
I haven't heard anything about it 5 months.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, great. Did you read the book? Sure did. Okay, so what are some of the important things? Well, they're the first, they were the first black unit to go fight in World War Nugget. They never fought.
In the battle.
They were turning firefighters. Turns out she, over 8 months, despite my current insisting that she read this book.
Yeah.
But they do all the project work at school, so it's not like she can bring it home and I can help her with it.
Right.
But when she first signed up for this thing, I said, okay, if you do this thing, I will I'll take some of my gear to school. And it's on the airborne. Now, I have an 82nd Airborne uniform. I'm not going to cut the patch off and put on a 555th because, one, I can't wear the uniform. And two, they don't make reproduction patches.
Not cool.
And so I followed suit. I was like, you got to read the book. I can't find the book.
Oh,
what do you mean you can't find the book? Go online. You better read up. You're going to embarrass yourself tomorrow.
Yep.
You're going to embarrass yourself. Now, being the asshole father that I am, I said, what a better way to learn a lesson about procrastination than getting publicly embarrassed.
Oh, it'll happen.
At a goddamn competition.
Oh, they'll look at you.
Okay, now find out what time I need to be there to bring my gear.
Yeah.
If you're competing. I get a text. 10 a.m. Friday morning. You need to be here by 11:30.
All right.
Great. That's an hour and a half from now, and I'm at work.
Oh, my God.
So I come home. I grab my mannequin. Clearly, I can't take rifles, knives, bayonets, and hand grenades. So and once again, they never went to combat. They're firefighters. So I just grabbed my jacket, blouse, the airborne helmet, the web gear, and a canteen, and the haversack. And I took it down there, and I set it up. And I believe I posted a picture. If not, I'll post one later.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I had seen these boxes that she created, and they look great. There's pictures she printed out, and here's one of the guys in airborne school. Here's one of them digging a fire line in the forest in which she put, here they are, digging a grave for the comrade.
What?
Dude, I'm like, no.
What she said, dude?
Like,
She's digging a grave?
They didn't fight. They're
digging a grave for their fallen brothers.
They're digging a fire line to prevent the spread of fire. Okay.
Oh, God.
Here's one from Vietnam.
What?
What? Oh.
Vietnam.
Nugget, come here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. When the judges come over, skip that picture. That's from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that. No, it's okay. And so we're there.
Yeah.
And first and foremost, naive little Don, I was assuming that there was going to be some state-certified history fair judges coming out.
Yeah, some sort of competition thing happening.
It's the brothers, the cousins, the sisters of the teachers. So that makes it a little bit easier.
All right.
Okay, but now they have 3 categories. They got the displays like Nugget made. You can either do 2 boxes stacked, which is a nice 3D thing, and then some people made like a trifold giant cardboard thing.
Yeah, that old school stuff.
You go in there, and there's one on the the Jacksonville Fire 1901. It's got some cool stuff. Not sure how it's breaking boundaries, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You got one on the LGBT community. Okay, that's breaking boundaries. People get married now. That's cool. Here's one on 9/11. Breaking boundaries.
How's that?
I guess the Muslims broke some boundaries, but
that's kind of odd.
Okay, whatever. And,
Yeah,
and so the other one is you could have done a play or a skit,
Okay.
or put a PowerPoint presentation and make a quote unquote documentary.
All right.
Now you would think with video cameras,
Yeah,
and
she could
voiceover equipment,
PowerPoint
she
it up,
would have
man.
made a video, but she chose to make the boxes, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, and as the judges go around to judge everybody's stuff, we're going to start the first documentary. And the very first documentary, them are Higgins boats. I recognize those. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
As this next group of kids are playing a very well done PowerPoint, you can tell they recorded their audio on their phones. A lot of background noise, which they're sixth graders. I'm not going to. But as the landing craft are rushing towards Normandy Beach, and the background plays John Denver's "Country Road, Take Me Home."
What the?
Okay, they're sixth graders. They don't know that John Denver put that song out in '69,
Yeah,
not 1942. But that's fine, and it was cute and all that. And they're going around, and Nugget has her interview, and I'm standing back. And, 555th Paratroop Infantry Division. Where did they get their name from?
Uh-oh.
Didn't have the answer.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm going to get my wish. She's going to get embarrassed.
Yeah, she's getting it.
She's going down in a big flaming...
Going down.
And so she does her thing, and she's showing the pictures. Now, I will say she did get enough that she knew the principal characters and say their names and point to them, this and that. She was happy to show that on my mannequin, the jacket was the same ones in the pictures of them in their airborne training school.
All right.
And then another PowerPoint presentation comes up on Obama. And I'm listening to this kid's voiceover work, and there's very, very little background noise. Very little white noise.
Yeah.
No, don't go there. White noise is a technical term for...
Yeah.
I'm not even
Watch
talking to you
it,
people. And I watched it. I was like, damn, this kid's doing a good job.
Yeah, he's got some pro stuff happening here.
And so it was done. I walked up to him. I probably scared to show him. I reached in and I said, good job on the voiceover work.
Yeah, damn right, dude. The kid's probably like, huh?
Oh, thanks. And,
Yeah.
then another kid did one on the Spanish influenza.
Okay,
Now,
Jesus.
this kid's his parents must have been, they must do a podcast because his voiceover work was spot fucking on.
Really good,
The recording quality was right there. He wasn't
They
doing it on
probably-
his iPhone in the toilet. It was spot on. His dialogue was great. The fonts were perfect. The transitions. Somebody clearly helped him produce this.
They know
this
computers and
PowerPoint.
shit, yeah.
And so they're running late. This other group gets up and they're starting to do their slideshow on the Jacksonville fire of 1901, which they chose, 4 young ladies, chose some romantic, smooth R&B as the background music to
All
play
right.
while you're talking about the burning down of Jacksonville and
Jesus.
people burning to death. And then it starts double tracking songs and it crashes. And so now at this point, the thing's going to go long, which is fine. And I had to get going. I was told this thing was going to run from 12 to 2 o'clock. So
You got work to
I
do,
bid
bro.
to do. I grabbed my gear, give Nugget a kiss. Say, see
Got
you
to
later.
go.
She had a lockout that night. It's where they lock them in a school and they run around and have fun. So I won't see you until 8 o'clock. Go back to work. Get a text message.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Dad. I got 3rd place.
What? What?
So now at the end of the month, Nugget's going to regionals.
Oh, where the hell is that at?
Somewhere here in Lee County.
Oh,
but
okay.
But if she wins regional, she's going to state.
Oh, Jesus.
And then possibly Washington, D.C., depending on how far
Oh,
this
my
train
God,
goes.
dude. You better start studying up a little bit
And so
more.
I told her, I said, hey.
Work on that presentation.
One, you got 2 things going against you. 2, people are going to see you did a thing on World War II and just assume I did the whole fucking project for you.
True.
Which, as I just explained in great detail, wasn't the case. Not only did I not do a project for her, but she barely did it for
Yeah,
herself.
barely even told me about it.
But her smile, she's got that $1 million smile.
Yeah,
and
got
I'm
her through it, man.
And, her presentation was on mark and she got through it. But I told her, I said, you're not going, you're going up against the kids who got 1 through 4th at their school.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, see if you can bring those boxes home so we can peel out the Vietnam logo. Replace
fix it.
that one and then replace the paragraph about how they're making graves for their fallen comrades when they're digging a fire line. And you better find that damn book and you better read it like 6 times.
Yeah, you got to get that going.
Because if you're going to regionals, you don't want to be embarrassed. And so she pulled, not even, I was leaving and the judge said, your daughter did a good job. And I'm thinking,
Really?
okay, they're
That's
probably going to get
cool.
her 4th place.
Makes you feel good.
She got 3rd place.
I can't believe it, man. 3rd place, bro. She got like a ribbon or
E-Train's
something?
going to be breaking out the
She got that medal that's
flashcards
hanging
on
right
her.
there.
Oh, that's the medal right
Yeah,
there?
the red, white, and blue.
Oh, man. I have to take a close look at that.
Like the girl who got 1st place, like when we got there, Nuggets, she's like, see that girl up front? The one looks like a stewardess. She had like on a blue sport coat and like she did a well done, like perfect
Very
high resolution
streamlined.
photo about gay marriage, and
Oh,
the
God.
paragraphs were on point and all that. And she got first place. But all in all, the thing was great. But I'm thinking, I told Carrie, I said, "Fuck."
Yeah.
We were expecting this to be a learning experience for her about not procrastinating, and
she's getting rewarded for it.
and in the horrors of public humiliation.
Yeah.
Only to find out now you got third place.
Yeah, getting
Well,
rewarded
so
for
much
that.
for that learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Now Nugget's going to not want to go anywhere with D-Train because he's going to be quizzing her in the car every time they drive somewhere.
Yeah, bro. He's going to be on her, man. She's going to be like, Dad, don't
So
worry
what's a
about
triple
it.
nickel about?
Well, now she's representing me,
Yeah, don't worry
the
about
host
it.
of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast.
Yeah,
So,
right.
now
Now you've got some work to do to get her up to snuff.
Dad, I know what
Yeah.
I'm doing. Don't worry about it.
So it's kind of hard to get on her about the fact that she has some not less than pleasing grades simply because she doesn't do her homework.
Yeah, just apply herself a little bit.
my homework. I can fumble my way once through a project and get third place.
AC/DC, bro.
And no, it wasn't. She got third out of 5. There was 15 people in her category in the
That's
display.
amazing.
That's not counting the PowerPoint
So what
or
the hell?
or the skit people. She got third place out of
So-
like 18 people in her category.
Some of these other projects had to have been some real fucking shit shows.
Well, I can't say that. They're fucking 6th graders.
I
But
know, man, but I'm sorry, dude. It has to be some real shit show, dude. Jesus.
Look, Bobby traced his hand and turned it into a turkey.
Yeah, check that out. Like, yeah, what was the theme again? What was the theme?
breaking barriers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Breaking barriers. Breaking barriers. Something about 9/11. Jesus Christ.
And I'm sure that went a long way that her project was on point.
Yeah,
it was history and it was
did.
breaking barriers.
Yeah, it was, absolutely. At least she had the breaking barrier moment. You know, something in time.
Yeah, so I got that working against me now.
Oh, boy, dude. You're going to end up going to Washington, D.C., man.
And so, as you can imagine, the procrastination didn't stop. I had to go out and buy another book. I don't know where the original one is, so now the book I got for free 2 years ago, I just paid $20 for another copy to prepare her for the next round of this big event. Here it is Thursday, tonight. We printed up new photos. We got rid of the Vietnam photo. We got rid of the paragraph about digging the graves. She's making cue cards. Tomorrow night, her friends staying the night. She's going to cram for this big event. I got to take her display down tomorrow, Friday, along with my mannequin and some stuff. Set up the display and pray that none of my stuff gets stolen overnight Friday. And then Saturday morning, we will be there bright and early for round 2 of the nationwide history program to see if Nugget's project is good enough to go to state. And then after that, if she's going to go to Washington, D.C. So make sure you tune in next week to find out whether Nugget's $1 Million Smile and her project gets her past round 2. Wish us luck. And let's see how that goes. And so be sure to check in next week to find out what happened and also to enjoy our interview, the second interview we did this weekend at Mount Dora with Jerry Oxley. But first, here he is, Mr. Brown, talking to you about his upcoming World War II documentary, which is a very cool story, one I hadn't heard before, and I hope you enjoy it.
Excuse the noise, excuse the sound quality, because we are once again recording live from the Digital 410 at Computers Mobile Studio known as the Toyota Tacoma. We are out here in Mount Dora, Florida at the Renegers Flea Market for the Military Vehicle Preservation Society show. We've got World War II armor out here. There's Jeeps, there's trucks, there's half-tracks. There's everything you could possibly need if you're a reenactor or a military vehicle collector. Any items you need could be purchased here. I actually just moved my car because Jerry explained to me when he was in his truck earlier, and we were parked super close to the tanks, and every hour they are shooting off blank rounds, and they got a huge artillery piece out here. And Jerry was mentioning when he was in his truck, and they fired off a round that his windshield seemed to flex a little bit. And I don't know how you would file an insurance claim on that sort of thing, so I just moved my truck further down to a safer distance. So I was just walking around doing what I do, and I was asked that if I would be interested in signing a likeness disclaimer, because a gentleman here is looking to do some B-roll for his documentary he's currently working on. And you know me, I said, hey, pro quo, are you interested in coming on my podcast to talk about your documentary? And joining us from the 2016 Toyota Tacoma in Mount Dora, Florida, Mr. John Brown. John, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm just going to adjust your mic a little bit.
All right.
So you gave me a real quick synopsis, but I didn't want you to give me the whole thing because I wanted you to save it and be fresh for this podcast.
Right.
So what's the working title for your documentary, and what's the scuttlebutt on that?
All right. The name of the film is Agen, One Man's War, and it's about World War II vet, George Agen. He lives in, well, he passed away last April, but before he passed, for the year and a half prior, we met quite a bit and did oral history, and he told me about everything he did when he was in the war. He was a liberator of Dachau on 29 April. He, in 2004, he was asked by a friend of his who was a professor at Valdosta State University, Dr. Louis Schmier, if he would come into his class on Holocaust studies and tell them about what he saw when he liberated. So, of course, George did it, and it was the first time that he had shared the story. And it started from there. Him and his wife, Joyce, went around to schools at VSU and local schools in the area and shared the story about in the high 90s of times, just letting people know about what he saw. And his story is actually quite amazing, not just the liberation of Dachau, but the other things that he did. He was a combat engineer, so, you know, soldier plus.
Sure.
And then he was the equipment NCO, so he had the deuce and a half with all of the explosives and the spare tools. And they trained at Camp Chaffee in Arkansas, left out of New York, and went through the Straits of Gibraltar, landed at Marseille, and went up and were stationed out of Sospel as they built roads, widened roads and everything for all of the equipment that was coming in on the southern France front. And while he was in Sospel, they were protected by the 442nd. So the Nice troops were just coming off of their hard-fought battles in Italy, and they were sent down there, and it's what they called the Champagne Campaign, because they were down there, and but that was the first time that George's unit had seen combat, and they were building their roads and building new bridges, and they were being protected by the Japanese Americans. And so that's an interesting part of the story. He shares some, you know, things, how they used to go out on patrol with them, and they built the machine gun nests all around to protect them, and they'd go out and bring them coffee and talk to them about what they did in Italy. And they knew who they were, because at that time was after they had just been, you know, nominated and starting to receive all the awards that they had gotten from Italy. The Battle of the Bulge kicked off, and George's unit was packed up, and they drove the 400 miles. But by the time they got there, everything was done.
And let's keep in mind, for those listening, 400 miles, not 400 miles in 2020 and a nice at 80 miles an hour. You're talking 400 miles in the back of a deuce and a half, Jeep, on foot, traveling top speed, 35 miles an hour max, maybe. And so coming off the lines, you're heading out there. It's a rush because, you know, Germany's pushing through the Ardennes forest. It's everybody on deck, and you're just, that ride itself, I mean, as someone who's ridden in a deuce and a half, shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of guys, you got your gear, you got everything, you're already tired from everything else. And to take that long trip, that long travel, and then disembark from your trucks or however you got there, and now it's time to fight. Mm-hmm. It's like, where do you find that energy?
Exactly. Yep.
It's a lot, you know, when people watch the movies and the TV shows, that's one of the things they really don't get into, because it's not the glamorous side of combat. Not that combat should be glamorous,
but I always find it's important to express the impact that the environment, that stress, just the everyday life, not, let's not even talk about getting shot at and fearing for your life, but just living in that environment for long periods of time and then being put into a situation where you have to be mobile, you have to get up, move, and save your life. It's so hard to fathom going through that day after day, week after week, years.
Yeah. That is very true. Yep. And that's one of the things that George expressed when we talked and spent time together, is just that it was hell. He said it was hell because he said you were always at a constant state of readiness. Mm-hmm. You were always paying attention. And he said he was 93 years old. So he's like, even to this day, I still pay way more attention to a whole lot of stuff that I shouldn't pay attention to. And so by the time they got up there, the bulge was over. So they just redeployed the unit there and were waiting for orders. But they got assigned to T-Force, the Target Force people, which was the Allied sending in scientists to get German secrets.
Sure.
So they used engineers because, trained in explosives, trained in mine clearing, trained in removing booby traps and stuff like that, because as the Germans left, they booby trapped everything. So they send the scientists and the engineers, math engineers would send the blow up engineers in to get everything cleared up. They crossed at Worms and then immediately beeline down to Mannheim, where they took the Mercedes factory that was there. And at that time, Mercedes was building the Opel, their version of the Deuce and a Half, their utility truck. And then they also were building submarine engines. So they got all of that, and they were just guarding the scientists as they were doing their science stuff.
Yeah, because the German U-boats, they were causing not only damage to our ships, but to our logistics, material supplies.
Yeah.
They were, so to be able to prevent them from, at least temporarily, from producing more engines, because the good thing about Germans, there we go, every hour on the hour is the World War II armors firing off their tanks and their long guns. Now, John, you see I'm tucked over here out of the way?
Yes.
I was parked over there, and a colleague of mine moved his truck, because he said when he was in his truck, it looked like his windshield flexed. And so I moved my truck over here because I don't want to file an insurance claim trying to explain how my windshield got cracked by tanks.
The cop that was over there told me, he's like, you might want to move your car because the shockwave will get you.
They haven't fired the long gun off yet. That one puts off a bang. But yeah, every hour on the hour. They started at 8 o'clock this morning.
Nice.
My rearview mirror is bouncing like it was 1995 when I had 15-inch subwoofers in the back of my Ford Escort. But I'm just waiting before we get back into your thing here.
Yep.
We camped out here last night. It got down like 37.
Oh.
You see that little tiny pup tent?
Yeah.
That's me. I ended up staying in the bigger tent, which is an Arctic tent. It's actually partitioned inside, and I have 4-wool blankets and the shell of a sleeping bag, which I just acquired. And I slept on the ground, and it didn't get too cold because I was in that tent. But being 41, my body's only good for about 6 hours on the hard ground. So I woke up at 4:30 this morning. I knew I had a slow leak in my tire, so I went down and my tire got down to 10 pounds of pressure because of how cold it got. So I put air in my tire, came back, and I fell asleep in the cab of my truck until about 6. But this is my second time at this event. I think the live fire is over, so we can get back to the details of. Before we get back into that, because obviously the key to this is we want people interested in seeing your documentary, so we don't want to give the whole story away. So let's back off that a little bit and talk a little bit about you. I see you have your J. Brown Productions shirt on.
Yes.
Have you done other documentaries in the past, or was this the one that led you down that road?
This is what led me down the road. I retired from the Air Force in 2014.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Of course, now the live fire's over. Here comes the Huey.
Here comes the Huey.
But anyhow,
they when I was in, I hurt my back, had back surgery, got out, was working for the post office, of course, because you get 10 points for being a veteran, so instant job. So was working at the post office while I was finishing my master's degree. But anyway, hurt my back again, which was a pain, and went to the VA and talked to them about it, and they sent me back through vocational rehabilitation.
Okay.
So there's the long tom. Wow.
That's the window cracker.
Yeah, it was. Holy smokes, the whole thing jerked at me. They so went back to school, and I had done podcasting in the early 2000s, and
back when the word, I worked in terrestrial radio for 5.5 years, and before I got into radio and podcasts, I'm a computer guy. I've been running an IT firm since 2004. And I'm anti-Apple. So the phrase podcast used to drive me up the wall because it's for those young cats. The reason I call them podcasting is back before the iPhone, everybody had iPods.
iPods, yep.
And so they were intended to be downloaded onto your iPod, and it's a play on word from broadcasting to podcasting. But so there's a little history on where the phrase podcasting came from. But yeah, it's been around for a long time.
So I did podcasting back in the day. A bit of a miniature war gamer, did Flames of War, and then Bolt Action. But anyway, that's my nerd side. So took an aptitude test, was really keyed on, broadcast, production. So they sent me back to school, learned how to went to film school.
Nice.
Graduated from Valdosta State a year ago.
Well, it could be worse. You could have went to communications and tried to get a job in radio, which is hurting.
Hurting right now, exactly. So it was spring break 2018, and I was asked, since I was the old guy, again, I was the old guy and wasn't at the beach when spring break kicked off, so they asked me if I would go film a World War II vet that was talking.
Nice.
So being hobby World War II history, that kind of stuff at the time, I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to. So I went and I listened to the guy's story, and as he was sitting there telling it and going more and more, I was like, this is just more than the liberation of Dachau.
Yeah.
When he mentioned the 442nd, because he only said the 442nd, he didn't say anything else. And I had talked to him afterwards, introduced myself, told him what I was doing for the school, and then he was like, I said, do you mind if I come over and we start talking more?
Sure.
And he was like, yeah, I'd love to.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the
essence. Interviews vets, not only are they passing away, but they're the ability to be lucid and to call up those memories and even be able to sit down for a long-form interview is getting harder and harder to find.
You're right. It is. It really is.
And so it's great at that age he was able to do so, and so you went over there a few times.
Yep, and got close to 30 hours of interview footage with him, telling all the different stories that he did. And see, that's, like I'd said earlier, he'd done it in the 90s. 90 times he told this story. So he went to Toastmasters and learned to become a better speaker.
Sure.
And he's just an amazing, amazing storyteller.
Well, you tell a story 90 times. At that point, you become like a well-rehearsed comedian and or public speaker.
Exactly.
At that point, it's all muscle memory.
Yep. So he had the timing down, but amazing story. And I just thought about what it would be that his main concern at the time was that he knew he was getting older. Of course, he was in his 90s. But he wanted to continue to make sure people knew about the Holocaust from somebody who had seen it firsthand. So I told him, I said, we'll film this, we'll make it into something really nice, and we can give it to all of the schools that you have spoken at over these years. Everybody will have a copy of you telling the story. Well, then it just grew, and the Valdosta State University had tremendous buy-in for backing me on it.
Now we're firing off the 50 cals, the 30 cals,
rifles and all the light machine guns.
And I really, really hope that the rest of my film crew is over there getting those shots.
If they're worth their salt. I have a YouTube channel, and I always come out these events, and I have all these grand delusions of getting footage. But once you're out here, if you don't have a crew, it's so hard to be part of the event plus get footage.
Yep.
It's hard to get people to sit down for podcasts, especially. I always try to do it before the event because afterwards everybody's tired. They're not, down for the cause and all that. But I greatly appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: I've heard that the cool thing about doing a documentary is you'll have a storyline and you'll have some information, and you'll go talk to the subject at hand, and they'll mention a name keeps coming up, Now, obviously, with World War II, it's a little harder because of the age.
Yes.
But things start to fall in place. A name that keeps coming up, they may still be around, or one of their friends. And did you find that your documentary started going down a path that you never intended it to because of the information that was presented to you and the contacts?
Yes, definitely. It went from just being a sit-down story of him telling me what was going on to him starting to talk about stuff that needed, I don't want to say more explanation, but I just didn't want a narrator to say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Well, I think for the viewer, it's always more interesting if you have, either the voice of the person or someone voiceovering diaries instead of just having the same monotone narrator.
Exactly.
Because then you feel like you're just watching a History Channel.
Right. So I've gone out to Fort Leonard Wood and talked with the lead historian at the Engineer Museum. Been out to the 45th ID Museum in Oklahoma City and talked to their curator, who has a tremendous amount of knowledge about Dachau and the Liberation Day and everything. Very well-read historian, Michael Gonzalez is his name. And then Troy Morgan at the Fort Leonard Wood Museum. Went down to Camp Chaffee and did B-roll footage of, because they still have all the barracks and everything set up there. They never tore anything down.
How's that for foresight? It's so sad when you hear, I live down in Fort Myers, Florida, and you have the Fort Myers International Airport, then we have Page Field, which is for Cessnas and private planes. But all that was Air Force and Marine Corps training base during World War II. And obviously, they're more interested in the commercial sites, and none of that stuff's really there anymore. So the cool thing is, of my sister-in-law, her husband's family, they have a cattle ranch that we go out shooting on, and that was part of the gun range back then. And so we're constantly finding 50 cows that ran out of momentum. They never hit anything. They just ran out of momentum and fell to the ground. And so you'll leave there with buckets of just spent ordnance that just lost momentum and fell on the ground. And so it obviously, not every place can maintain history because they need the property for modern day use. But it's so great to hear there are places that had the foresight to hold on to something.
Yeah, they have the... That's where Elvis Presley went and got his haircut when he joined the military.
There you go.
Before he got sent off to Texas to go through training. He went through Chaffee, and that's where he was inducted. Wow. So they've got the barber shop where he got his haircut. That is one of the big museum draws. And then they just kept that whole area all around there. All the World War II barracks are still up, and they've got one of them is turned into a museum to show all the stuff. That's where Chaffee is where all of the Nazi POWs and German POWs from North Africa were sent.
Okay.
So the early Desert War, all of those guys were shipped back to Camp Chaffee, and they stayed there. And actually, George has some funny stories of, because they marched around in formation everywhere they went.
Yeah.
And, George and his buddies went through basic training there, so... they saw the Germans all the time.
Yeah.
But, so we've been there. We're doing this. I went out to Texas, and Chad Bayer, he has a compressor truck. He's with the MVPA out of Camp Hausa in Gainesville, Texas.
Okay.
And he has a beautifully restored compressor truck, CCKW frame. With the Leroy engine and the compressor with the hose reels. He's got all the tools, everything works.
Nice.
Him and his brother-in-law dress up, and they go to, they do the reenactments and stuff as well. But he was very gracious, and we spent an entire day out there just filming his equipment and then ran into him again in Missouri when he was up there for Veterans Day. And got to ride in the parade on the truck, but just a beautifully restored compressor truck.
Yeah, when it comes to producing and editing and all that, you cannot underestimate the value of B-roll.
Yes.
You can never have too much.
Never.
You can always have not enough.
Yep.
I was listening to Adam Carolla, who done some movies as well as documentaries, but he said whenever he would do movies, he would always make sure to get a few over-the-shoulder shots of the key actor. That way, when they're into editing and they realize, oh crap, we forgot to shoot this line, they just use the footage of over the shoulder, and they'll come back and have them voice over it in, so then they at least have the line on film. You may not see him saying it, but that's kind of the way he would always kind of protect himself, to get a few shots of over the shoulder, just in case something had changed and needed to add something. When it goes through, they have people, doing their testing, and I didn't understand who this person was. They can go and say, that's my brother, things like that. So you can never have too much B-roll, even if it comes to something as simple as shooting a YouTube video.
Yep, you are absolutely right, and that's why I'm so excited about this today. I've been following
World War II.
The Deuce and a Half that's out of St. Pete, Plain Jane, Sean and his dad, that's their truck.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not here today. He called me and said they weren't going to be able to bring it, but which is a shame. But then there's so much other stuff here, and the reenactments. The plan for the documentary is I want to do a lot of animation.
Yeah.
But I want to have the footage of you guys running across the field in full kits.
You can animate over top of it.
Exactly.
Because unfortunately down here in Florida, the trees aren't conducive to the European theater. But the nice thing about this event, because I did this one 2 years ago, is obviously here in Florida it's usually flat, but we have this hill. And if they do it the same way we did 2 years ago, the tanks are going to be up over the crest of the hill, so you won't see them, unlike other events where you see them in the corner of the parking lot. And obviously they may have changed it up, but 2 years ago, basically what we did is we'll send out a combat patrol. We'll walk down, do a combat patrol, maybe send down a Jeep. We'll take fire, we'll fall back, call in the cavalry, and then tanks will come over and blow the living hell out of everything. And so this is a really great place for that. And like I said, you could always kind of do the over animation stuff to use the silhouettes and the guys walking in the tanks, but then get rid of all the Spanish pines.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm just super excited that this kind of stuff is still. You guys do this stuff because, it's like George said, they're all passing away.
Yep.
We're not going to have them for much longer.
No.
Any of them, and then there's going to be a day where there isn't one of them to share the story.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to have these oral histories and these oral interviews with these veterans to share, to get their story out, because every one of them is just so interesting and unique, and everybody's war story it needs to be heard.
Yeah, and even if they never saw combat, one of my kind of regrets of doing this podcast, sometimes I feel like I started 5 years too late, 10 years too late. It's getting harder and harder, and I'll interview anybody. I don't care if they saw combat or if they, they're just in the service at the time. And that's what I'm starting to find is more and more the vets who are still with us, they joined at the end of the war, and they went over and did a lot more, police work style stuff. But I like to interview the ladies who were here during the war to see what was going on the home front and all that stuff. And so one of the things we like to do here on this podcast is anybody who was around from that time. Early on, like the third interview I did, I actually interviewed a German gentleman. Unfortunately, I did it in this beautiful big house, marble floors, columns, so the acoustics was horrible. And I tried getting the background noise out. But if you guys go back and listen to it, he was like 6. And he was talking about how he was, and him and his uncle and his mom and dad were up in the attic because the Allies and the Germans were literally fighting outside their front door. And to this day, he still broke down crying because he remembers a German just laying out in the front yard just for a day and a half. Just, somebody help me. He got hit. He was just laying out there, but the German medics were afraid to go out there. They're afraid they're going to get shot. Everybody's kind of pinned down. No one can move. And he's just talking about for like a day and a half to get somebody just help me. And
wow.
So even getting the standpoint from, someone who was there at the age of 5, even they still have. And it was kind of cool because I asked him, I said, well, obviously you're young, but you had older brothers and all that. And his oldest brother went and fought for the Weimar Republic. But yeah, he still remembers vaguely like how and he heard stories through his brother as well, as Hitler was starting to get more and more power, and the indoctrination at the schools started picking up, how parents would change their conversation around their kids.
Wow.
Because the kids were being trained to go to school
and tell
the authorities of any anti, Nazi sympathisants. So the parents would start to change how they would have conversation with their neighbors in front of their kids, because they couldn't trust their own children not to go to school and drop the dime on them.
Wow.
And so it's always great to, I really like to talk to people and get the information that we haven't heard, 200 times on every history show and all that. So I love just getting the personal side to everything. So, this is your first real production.
Yes.
Funding, are you doing crowdsourcing? If people want to help you out, is there any place they can go, or if they just want to get more information? You have a website, Facebook page, Instagram, all that good stuff?
Actually, jbrownproductions.com is my website, and there's links to my Facebook and to the Egan documentary there. We're not at the point where we're doing crowdfunding yet. I've been trying to... I want to use that for post-production to make sure that color correction and animation is super expensive.
And not to mention scoring.
Exactly.
That makes or break of it.
Yep.
Even for you YouTubers out there, putting some cheesy music because you want to the music is everything. That's all I can say. Scoring will make or break
it. It will.
And that's scoring, color correction, and animation. Those are the three places you cannot nickel and dime.
Yep. So I'm waiting to do it that way. I had a large donation through Valdosta State from a friend of George.
Now the gentleman you were talking to in this tent, the one I stayed in last night, they're all from that area.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're all Georgia boys. They put on an event 3 weeks ago up in Lakeland,
Georgia. Yeah. And they didn't advertise it. I could not find. I found out it happened after it happened.
Well, I had Jeremy for last 2 years on the podcast, and basically what it was, and I'm not stepping on any toes. The first year, basically the thing started out the first year as a fundraiser for the school's jazz band, and the city got in behind it. And the turnout was horrible because they didn't advertise. And so this year we moved it to the Boy Scout camp. And the Chamber of Commerce will say, okay, we're going to advertise. They had a local radio station come do a live remote that day. But that doesn't help.
Nope.
And so if you're not on Facebook and you're not a reenactor or a member of living history groups, you didn't know about it.
Yep.
And for somebody to be from the Valdosta area and not know about it until it's after, I mean, that's just...
I saw it in the Valdosta Daily Times is where I saw it, and I talked with Levi, one of the other producers on the film, and we were like, man, right in the back door, we could have got it. And then because, I'd like to get names of guys, because if we need to do reshoots or I need to do, I want to do a combat patrol.
Talk to those guys there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. We were at Camp Patton, the Boy Scout camp, and they have acreage out there, and we had the run of the place. We did a 8-mile, 4-hour tactical event, just in the woods. And then we did a 45-minute public event. But what I'm getting at is they have gear.
Yep.
They have access to that camp, and so if you guys need to do B footage, there is plenty of woods out there, and it'd be a great place to, you get halfway through your post-production and you realize we need a combat patrol scene. Those guys can hook you up.
Yep. Because that was one of George's best stories was when they found German jets. They found 2 of them. Wow. They left them behind because they didn't have any fuel. But he was talking about how...
I hope they sabotaged them first.
Well, actually, they were still with the T-Force guys.
Oh, okay.
So the scientists were there with them. They were doing exactly what they did. He said... They were doing a patrol. They were going up. They found a big clearing, and of course, let's skirt the trees around it. And as they walked up a little hill, a little rise, at the top, he said there was a barn, and there were 2 airplanes, but they didn't have any propellers.
Sure.
And they'd never seen an airplane without propellers before, and they did not they were like, what is that? And then, all the radio chatter back, because the scientist that was embedded with them was like, oh my gosh, let's get that. So, that's a 262. We've got to do something with that. And so he said they just pressed on. The scientists came, took it over. They called in another just standard infantry unit to protect them and hold down the fort. And then George's unit moved on. And he said two days later, they were marching down the Audubon, and there goes those jets flying over top of them, but they had American stars on them.
Nice.
At that time. So
yeah, I interviewed a gentleman, a B-17 pilot.
Oh, nice.
And due to engine failure, they had to bail out. Luckily, they were still over England, and so they landed. I said, well, how did you get back to base? Well, we went to the nearest town. Turns out there was a RAF pilot there, and after his breakfast, of course, he took us to the local airport, and they actually had one there that they had gotten a hold of. And he said it was the first time he'd ever heard a rocket engine was when that thing was taking off.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
well, I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you sitting down and getting to work. And furthermore, I appreciate what you're doing with putting together a documentary and telling another story that hasn't been told before.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best of luck. And right now, I mean, we're kind of talking about the cost of doing these sort of things. The good news is for you that the cost of quality digital cameras have come down tremendously over the last 20 years.
Yes.
You're doing this in the late 90s on 35 millimeter. Then you got to put in development costs and all that. So at least that side of it's a little more affordable. Not to say cheap, but definitely more affordable than it would have been 25 years ago.
Yes.
Mr. Brown, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
This has been a Digital 410 production.